Alright, so the engine and the head are at the machine shop. I've cleaned up the automatic trans case and the differential case. They're joined together still. And I need to wire wheel these bolts, get them all cleaned up, and degrease everything a little bit further. All my degreasing was basically on the top. Still have some degreasing to do down along the sides here. You can see still pretty crusty, but 1,000 times better than it was. Just hours and hours with Purple Power and a scrub brush, both nylon and metal, and just, you know, letting it soak in, and then a little bit of brake clean here and there for the very stubborn parts. But the majority of it was so thick I could actually scrape it with a scraper. So yeah, let's get this broken apart. Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm doing this wrong, but it's separated. But basically this shaft, the center shaft, came out. It goes through this shaft. As you can see, my finger goes in. It protrudes from the other side. I don't see another way of getting these apart. You know, the fluid's looking kind of burnt and toasty. It is no longer red, it is brown. It's definitely in need of an overhaul. Here's the rag with the fluid on it. There's no trace of red whatsoever. It's just brown at this point. So that's what's dripping out of it. All right, so my son Nick is on the camera, and I just wanted to show you guys how I'm getting the oil out of the, did it the dumb way, right? I didn't drain it. So I'm trying to get as much of the oil out of the middle of the transmission as possible. So I'm just gonna use the pump by blowing some air through the pump, and it should start squirting out and guggling down there. So focus in right here, and you'll see this is gonna be kind of, it should do this without making a big mess. I go really hard on that, it's just gonna spray out of there. But yeah, this is, get this down here in the corner, make sure that this is starting to absorb. And I'll probably just lift this up and throw a second or third one in there and get all this absorbed and thrown away. But yeah, that's how I'm dealing with not draining the trans before I got started. Alright, just wanted to show the condition of this oil. Can you zoom in a little bit over here? Look at this smearing, that little debris there. So it's a little bit of metallic flake in there. So I might, I'm gonna have to do a lot of measuring and confirming, but I may have too many worn parts. I just wanted to show the condition of the trans fluid compared to new. So there's a bottle of new. Let's go ahead and just dip this white paper towel in this section and bring it up. You can see how brown it is. Very burnt. And that's what new looks like. So pretty burnt. Yeah. Zoom in here again, Nick. Let's get in here. I'm gonna smear this around. So I did tilt it up. This is from draining being tilted up. Now this could be from the outside of the case, but there's such a fine little sheen in there. I have a feeling it's got a good amount of metal flake in it. Not big flake, very small, which would you would expect from wear. Big chunks is what I'm mainly worried about. So I think we've got a good start. We'll have to get deeper to find out where we're at. All right, YouTube. So I want to do this video justice by doing this entire rebuild on a time lapse and then do a voiceover. So everything's prepped and ready to go as far as exploding that trans all over this workbench, inspecting parts for wear. I still don't have my replacement torque converter. It's on the way, and with that's coming the bushings. In case the bushings are worn, I'll be replacing the bushings inside the interface surfaces within the trans. So I cannot find a competent, full-blown, start-to-finish rebuild of an 010 VW transmission anywhere on YouTube. So there's the beginnings of one, but the guy never kind of showed the whole process. So I've got the factory rebuild manual. I'll be going through that and doing a step-by-step tutorial type of video. However, the lighting in here is very poor. As you can see, it's kind of dim. It's not front lit very well. It's not top lit at all. I've got this large overhang. I've got about 10 or 11 foot ceilings in here. And that's the only light I have, is that garage door light, that one on the other side of the bikes, and then that single light there, which is pretty terrible. So I want to do this video justice. So I'm going to separate that out into a completely different video. And As I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by the air compressor right there. Yeah, I want to do this video justice, breaking it out into a completely different video on self-standing, not part of the restoration project. So it won't be in this series where I have part numbers after the title. It'll be titled differently. So yeah, keep your eye out for that in the future. It might take a while because I want to produce this pretty well. So I'll probably shoot just a ton of footage, get multiple camera angles, get some better lighting in here. It's going to take some time to get that all orchestrated, but I've got a few days before any of those parts are set to ship. And there is a transmission cooler that the Vanagons can run, but I was looking for these ports here and here on the hose kit to see where I would be able to get to those, and you can see they're there, here, and here. So there are provisions, you just need to drill them out and tap them. But in the process of checking all of my bolts and looking for everything, I recognized that this bolt right here that holds on the outer portion of that guard on the front end, it was stripped out. I was pulling that bolt out and I noticed it was really heavy to pull out, and it brought out all the threads with it. So I'm gonna have to find the right kit to drill out what's left of it and put in another coil kit in order to fix the threading in that hole right here. In the process of cleaning things up, I went ahead just getting prepped, waiting for my lighting setup to finish coming in. Decided I'd clean up the torque converter. This torque converter, I cannot find a rebuild. It's impossible. The place I ordered my rebuild from contacted me and said that they could not because the manufacturer that they work through, which is Recon or TranStar, which is also the rebuild kit manufacturer that I bought my rebuild kit from, they no longer are supplying these because they don't have enough cores. So I reached out to them directly, said, hey, listen, if I send my core directly to you, would you mind cutting out the middleman? And I haven't heard back from them, so I'm not relying on them to get back to me on getting a replacement. So what I'm doing is I'm cleaning up the outside of the case. I took a look at the bushing that's on the inside of the pilot and where it interfaces with the transmission. And but it's kind of iffy. I'm not sure. I might have to replace that bushing. I've got a bushing set coming. I'm not sure if that's included in it or not, but if it is, I'll pull that one if I can get it out and replace it. But I went ahead and topped it off with WD-40, and while it was soaking on the inside, on the outside, I cleaned the outside of the case on the other side, then slowly turned it over and then ran it in circles so that everything would get sloshed around, and then flipped it upside down and then cleaned the back side. So the exterior of the case has been basically not de-rusted. I mean, it's, oh, sorry for this harsh lighting. But yeah, so everything inside here has been flushed out, and that's what that pad there is, soaking up all that excess that's just a little bit left in here. But it's ready. It's as clean as it's going to get inside. I got to put the drain plug back in and put a little bit of pipe sealer on there, plug that guy in. After I've blown this out with some compressed air, just make sure that there's no residual WD-40 in there. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not getting the warm and fuzzies with this helicoil having to do that, but it is what it is. Luckily, there's no clutch packs in these. It's just the stator in the middle, and then you've got the impeller on one side and the turbine on the other. So there's some bearings in there, some roller bearings and Sprag one-way clutch inside of the stator, and then there's some brass bushings that are in there as well. So it's not really much to rebuild as far as wear parts. It's basically a couple of bushings, a couple of brass bushings, and some roller bearings. Other than that, there's not much to these. There's no lockup clutches or clutch packs, so there's no worry about that. Should be pretty accessible to just leaving it alone and flush it out like I did, top it off with fresh fluid. The thing should run well. We'll see. If it doesn't, I'm not looking forward to dropping it again, but it is what it is. Anyways, that's what I've got for right now. I'm just waiting for parts to come in.